you do a Q grading course, okay? Your license will last for 3 years, okay?
Yep.
At the end of the 3 years, you have 1 year to recalibrate yourself. The recalibration is 1 day, okay? In 1 day, you have to do 3 cuppings, and you have to pass at least 2 on 3 to pass the calibration, okay? And if you pass, you renew your license for other 3 years, okay? Do you think a Q grader is still a Q grader, or yeah, after 3, 4, 5 years without the calibration? So if he's not joining a calibration, and of course the license is yeah, is gone. Yeah, you think he can say that he's a Q grader, yes or no?
Once you pass the 20 exams, and for those people who don't know, so the Q grader, I can only speak for the Arabica Q grader. I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
Robusta. So you have 20 exams, and to get the certification, you need to pass all 20. So if you pass 19 and one, I don't know,
you don't,
maybe olfactory, sugar browning, you don't pass, that means you fail the entire certification. And many people are brutally stressed. So sometimes even outstanding cuppers won't get this certification because maybe they cannot deal under this pressure with the situation. So some people who pass, maybe they might not be the best sensory people in the world, but they can perform well under pressure. And that's also important, you know. But once you pass this exam, for me, really, that means that you have a very good level when it comes to sensory. But it's important to be calibrated. So for me, it totally makes sense to go every 3 years and just to make sure that you're still calibrated. But just the calibration per se is not enough to really be ahead of the game, being a Q grader. So I would highly recommend every Q grader or whoever works in sensory to do on a regular basis all those 20 exams, to practice with solutions, to smell the set with the 36 little bottles of Le Nez du Cafe, or to cup defects, to grade green beans, and for sure really to cup in a group.
Q grader Arabica evaluate green beans and cup testing too. Yes, of course you have to pass exams about cupping and about scoring and sorting green bean defects. So 3 minimum, not 3 minimum in a panel for cupping. No, six people need to be 6 people at least in a cupping to accept the cupping table. 6, not
for the Q grader.
3.
Yes.
Maybe he's saying another thing, that during the Q grading course you need to be at least 6 in a cupping. But when you have to certify a coffee later, need to be at least 3 Q grader to certify a coffee, to give a score to a coffee and to classify it. Yeah, it's different. It's different. Good. So now I want to ask you one thing. Okay, we said that is a certification. We say that it's not easy to get. We say that it's important to do the calibration. That means in 1 day, 3 cupping, and you have to pass at least 2 or 3 every 3 years. This is super important. But try to give some suggestion to our friends. if they don't want to join any training like a pre-Q grader or sensory courses, how they can practice at home before the Q grading certification?
So maybe I'm the wrong person, because I didn't practice.
Okay.
And, I was very lucky and I passed, but you know, I practiced a lot before. But let's maybe just quickly go through the exam, and then I can explain to you how to prepare. So one of the exams most people are very scared of is the sensory skills, right? So that where you have the different solutions in different concentrations. And first of all, you get the different solutions one by one. You know which one is the sweet one, which one is the acidity, and then you need to group them. Then
you have salt.
Yep.
You have sweetness. You have acidity, and the fourth one,
bitterness.
Bitter.
Do you have all four in the Q grader? I think
in the R grade, maybe 3 in the Q grader Arabica and 4 in the Q Robusta. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
4 in the Q Robusta.
This is very easy to do. So this you can practice at home, and you just need to have the different solutions. It's very easy. You can go to the SCA website, or you can attend an SCA sensory class, or you can ask an official SCA sensory AST, and they can explain to you how to make the solutions. And then that you can easily practice at home. So solutions is pretty simple. You don't even need to prepare a cupping. So that's pretty simple to do. Then le Nez du Cafe, so olfactory. So you will have the sugar browning, for example. That is very simple. So you have the 4 categories. You have every time 9 aromas. So you can either go to a barista class and do the training there, or you can get yourself this little set with the 36 smells, and then you can practice at home. Yeah. So those things are very easy to do. When it comes to cupping, I think it's very important, first of all, to understand the official SCA cupping form. You need to know how it's built. You need to understand what's the difference when you have a scale on the vertical axis or the horizontal axis. So that's very important, that you first of all understand how the cupping form is built. Yeah, and then there's no way around. You need to score coffees with this cupping form. Understanding the form and the theory behind, or the idea behind, is one thing, but then you will have the time pressure. So it's very important that you start scoring coffees according to this cupping form. Exactly. So those are some very simple things you can do at home. When it comes to roast sample idea, you remember? Yeah. Many people find this one very tricky, because many people are used to different roasting styles. And many of the hardcore specialty coffee lovers, they might be negatively surprised by the roast level you will find during the Arabica Q grader exams. It's darker than it's quite dark. Yes. So I would definitely make sure that when you prepare for a Q grader, that you go and ask someone who has already passed, who knows how to roast to the Q grader standards, and they can most probably also prepare the samples for the roast sample idea. Yeah, we can tell to our friends that all the samples that are used during the Q grading course are from a certified lab that send a kit, with all the coffees already roasted
roasted with a specified Agtron scale color that is quite dark. In fact, always when I do campings for for commercial industries, yeah, I try to follow the CQI rules. So to roast exactly in the Agtron scale that they require to fill up the form. Of course, when you are joining a cupping in the specialty coffee industry, but 99% of the roasters are roasting much lighter, much lighter. So when they attend the Q grader course, of course they are shocked because they find these coffees. So they find roastiness, bitterness, or this kind of notes strongly in these kind of coffees. So, but in fact, is a discussion that I have quite often. So, which is the right way to roast samples? There is no right way if you are working by yourself in your roaster. You can roast the samples as you prefer in your place. But when you are doing something official, you need to set up a standard that in CQI world is this one. So you have to follow this standard and adapt yourself and your way to score coffees to this roast standard. And this is one of the most difficult point for many people to adapt to the roasting style of CQI during the training. Yeah,
absolutely. That's really crucial. So I remember when we did roast sample idea, the perfect roast for me would, in my personal life, would be already super roasty. But then you really need to calibrate yourself with the organization, with your team. And it's important that you score coffee calibrated with your team. That's really important. So you can partially prepare yourself for the Q grader, but then when it comes to cupping, it's very important you will have to be calibrated. Then, for example, one thing is what is it, like the Cup Tasters Championship. So to find or you have the 3 cups, and then 2 cups are identical, one is different. So this again you could practice at home. That's a very easy one to prepare. And that's also something, the triangular test, I would say not many people do, even working in a quality lab on a daily basis. Because that's, I would say, normally is something you will do if you work on a new product. So you want to prepare a new blend, or you want to replace one origin in your blends and check whether the consumer will find the difference. So triangulation is something from championships, but not so common in a Q lab. So maybe that's also something very important to practice, because especially under the pressure, you will get scared.
Yeah, exactly.
And one thing to keep in mind, when we go to the Q grader, we will do the exams with the red light in a dark room. So the triangulation test, try this in a dark room with a red lamp. Because if you do it during the examination for the very first time, you will freak out, because just it's not the way you are used to do a triangulation test, because it will be very dark, it will be very silent, and there is a little red lamp. And it sounds funny, just make sure you go to toilet before, because you remember, they will lock the door for I think 40-45 minutes. So once you enter, no wait, you can exit.